Maybe. Yes.
Good morning. Hey, I'm in a new space. I'm in a new space today with probably more echo.
Oh, it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Okay, good. Every time everyone sees me, I'm in a different spot.
Yes, it's like I said before, instead of where's Waldo, it's where's Fay.
Yeah.
So you're still at your house?
I am. This is my old office. This was the one that I had for about a millisecond when we moved in. And then I believe Jack took it over because this is where the modem is. So he took it over because, they have to plug in their games and be able to, stream properly. And then he moved out, went to university, and then I had it for another millisecond until, Gray took it over.
It's a nice office.
It's a great office. It used to be a great office. So anyway, so I have it now for, a couple of days. These are my last 2 weeks here. So nice. That's why there's no furniture anywhere.
Yeah, we're used to seeing, so on the other side of those doors was like sort of a family room-ish area. And I can look behind you now and see nothing.
Nothing.
So interesting.
Yeah, so pretty much the house is empty. So I have this one desk and I have a TV upstairs, way up there on the third floor. And there's nothing else in the house, literally. There's 2 beds, one for me, one for Gray. That's it.
Getting there, though.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Getting there.
So what? So did you watch soccer last night?
I did not.
Okay. Well, I didn't. I mean, guilty as charged. I don't watch it, but Gray always comes running in when it's the appropriate time for me to watch, which is
perfect.
The end of the game. But it was like just such a Canadian. So the Canadian soccer or football team, for those of you in the UK, are in the qualifiers, right? They every year they do this. They try to qualify to get into the world.
And who are they playing?
They're playing Mexico, which is really hard, right? Because
they're a good team, yeah.
And they're playing in Edmonton in November in Canada. So
it's cold. For anybody that doesn't know Edmonton at all, like
it's like a billion degrees below zero.
Yeah, it's the West Coast. They're by the mountains. It's cold. So and it's the prairie. And it's north.
So it's an outdoor stadium, of course, because as most soccer is. And the field and the seats were blanketed with snow.
Of course they were. Welcome
so
to Canada.
They had to plow the field.
Yeah.
And they had a blower to blow the snow off the seats. It was like, I think 48,000 or something packed. It was like insanely packed, the stadium. And they played this game. I don't know how, because everyone's like this, and these guys are in little shorts.
Anyway, they're running around. They're fine.
Anyway, so in Canada, for those of you, we are not known as a men's soccer aficionados, I guess, right?
No.
So, and they've been doing really well. They last 3 games were undefeated or something. So, anyways, so they win, and of course,
Canada wins.
Yes, Canada won, and
awesome.
The interesting celebration is, one of the players runs and jumps into a snowbank. Just very so Canadian.
Because it's what we do.
Yeah. So
and then you wonder why the rest of the world thinks we live in igloos. Exactly. That's why.
Exactly. But it was really cool because, I think in Canada, the women's team is really what set soccer in minds of everyone, because the women's team, exceptionally amazing team, and have been, obviously one of the world's best competitively. And the men's, never qualified. They never qualified. And this year they're going to qualify right now in the qualifier that they're in, which is North America. They are in first place.
Mm-hmm. So normally I pay attention because I live in a house of sports people.
Yeah.
No one mentioned soccer.
Weird, because Gray, as I said, came running up to where, the one TV in the house is left and said, you got to put it on. I'm like, okay. So I was listening to him. And it was really, really interesting. You could check it out on I'm sure on YouTube and
I'm
stuff.
sure.
But congratulations, boys. Well done.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I love the fact that Mexico was whining about the weather and that Canada had an advantage, and and it was funny because Grace says, "Well, you know what? You know how hot it is when they have to play in Mexico. They have the advantage because nobody up here is used to it."
Well, it's true, and we talk about that like in football, right?
Yeah,
Like in the NFL, the American football, not
yeah,
soccer football.
yeah,
And you've got the southern states where, Florida,
yeah,
Texas, like all of those ones where normally they would play in warmer weather. But as soon as they get up to some of the northern
yeah,
states, it can snow for like the
yeah,
Super Bowl
yeah,
or any of their games. So they play in sleet, hail,
yeah.
snow. That's the only thing I don't like football. That's one thing I respect
Yes,
about football is the fact that they play in all different types of weather.
yeah,
But so good for them. So yes, no matter where you're from, you're going to have the advantage of either heat or snow.
that's great. Anyways, it was great. It was interesting. I love to watch. I love to see those kind of underdog kind of things happen, no matter what country it is.
Yeah.
It's you're always like voting for the Jamaican bobsled team in the
Yeah,
Olympics,
always.
right? Like, yeah, let them win.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm always voting for the underdog.
Exactly. So it was
Yeah.
cool. I enjoyed it, and that was before then. I was watching a Christmas movie, which we were just kind of talking about.
That's so
Um,
funny.
Come on, like everyone, you must admit you like Christmas movies, even if you don't want to tell anybody. You secretly, in the background, occasionally, everybody is listening, watches Christmas movies,
Even if you don't celebrate Christmas.
no, because
Like they're just so whether it's a sort of a Christmas or holiday, we have the
yeah,
Hallmark movies. I think I saw a spreadsheet where it was like, it was almost design your own adventure because there really isn't a lot of different plots. It's like
no,
this
all the
person
same.
does one of these three things, and there's like 100 movies with all of the same plot
Yeah,
line. They have
and
the
they're
same
all great.
sets, same
And
actors.
And you know what? I watch a lot of you and I both. We watch a lot of pretty intelligent shows, and then sometimes I just don't want to think. So put on a Christmas movie, yay!
And you don't have to think, but that's the beauty of it. Like, I don't want to always use my brain. I want to turn my brain off and go, you know what? I just want pure, dumb, silly,
Yeah,
mindless movie. And they're great for that.
they're great.
They're
Yeah.
great. So people make fun of them. They're like, why would you watch them? They're the same. But that's why we watch them.
Right. Exactly. And some people get crazy about it, right? They just like, oh, that's such a waste of your time. No, it's not. Like I always say to people, think of it as a form of meditation, right? If whatever you do, so meditation is really about just being in that moment and blocking everything out. So whether you're walking or you're exercising or you're doing something, it's all a form of meditation. So think about it. If you're one of those people that you might be stressed and you have a lot of stuff going on. And if you sit down and watch Netflix or you sit down and watch something and it calms you, then that's good because that's a form of meditation. That doesn't mean sit on the couch all day and watch.
No, but an hour and a half of
yeah,
focused, it doesn't, again, your brain is not thinking of 500 different things. You're
no,
literally just watching this and it's guiding you through
yeah,
the story.
it's true.
That is a
Yeah.
form of it. And I like them. I admit it. On a Sunday afternoon, I'll be like, see one that I've watched 1,000 times and I'll be like, I'd play.
Yeah, it's like every time, Love Actually comes on the TV, I just let it play, or Mamma Mia. They just play. Even though I've seen them so many times, I can actually say every word in the movie, but it's all good.
Yeah.
So that was what have you been doing?
Well, yesterday was a very exciting day for me.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting.
Yes. Tell us.
I had everybody out of the house for the first time since March of 2020. So, it's not that they bug me or they're not young kids. And yes, my teenagers have been going to school, but my husband's been here. And it's just different when you're working in a space where there's somebody else in the house. It's a different type of focus.
Yeah.
So everybody left. I did a little bit of a happy dance. I was like, yay, everyone's gone. I was like posting on Instagram. And but I had a really productive day because I had forgotten how productive I can be when I just get into mode where it's like
Yeah.
I can actually start something, finish
Without
it
being interrupted.
uninterrupted, and then move to the next thing. So I was literally going through my to-do list really well. I had a very productive day yesterday.
That's
And
great.
again, it's not that, people interrupt me, like my husband's good. He's in a different room. It's all good. But the difference is that I know nobody was going to interrupt me. So I
Right.
could literally get into it without knowing that I wasn't going to be interrupted.
So that was his first day back for basically a year and a half.
Yeah.
How did he like it?
It was different because he's in a new place. So he had to find it because
Right.
his other office was closed down like a lot of others. So he did a walk around downtown Toronto to see different businesses because he hadn't been down in sort of the underground.
Right.
So for people that don't know, sort of downtown Toronto, underneath all of the office buildings, there's
A big
multiple
city.
food
There's a
courts.
whole city
It's crazy. It's blocks and
underground.
blocks and blocks.
Yeah.
And he says, for the most part, it was basically the same. He goes, but you could see like how COVID and the businesses had impacted those businesses,
Yeah.
right? That it's the secondary, right? Like those
Yeah.
businesses survive because those office buildings were full.
Right.
So the food courts that were no longer operational, the businesses that had shut down, the ones that had closed signs,
Yeah.
all for lease signs, like they just couldn't survive. So
No,
I
you
don't think
can't.
that's been spotlighted enough
Yeah.
because the support businesses, like the coffee shops, the restaurants, even a lot of like retail clothing, like all of that stuff really survived because the business buildings were full.
Right. And you get to
So
the point, like, so for most companies, like even little small ones that were getting a little bit of maybe help from the government, not a lot, because they're getting basically loans, right? They're getting more loans than grants. And you have to understand that most retail organizations or most retail operations can only survive a couple months, right? Because they need that monthly income to pay their rent and to pay their employees. So even if, for example, they got money to survive to pay, they're still in debt on everything else. So the fact is, it's I hate to say it because it's very sad, but sometimes you might have invested your entire life savings, like you might have invested like $150,000 or something to start this business, and it's actually it's easier to walk away from that money than it is to keep your business open, because you just will never be able to get to the point where it is making a profit enough for you to pay all the back debt that you owe. So it's very sad, very sad.
yeah. Well, it was interesting because I think I was looking at a statistic that said like 85% of the people who were downtown have started working remotely. So hopefully, but now he's in a situation where he will never go back full time. So
Right.
I'm sure and he's not alone.
Right.
Right. So, but it was interesting. He, met somebody that had started with his company a year ago and they just physically met in person yesterday.
Yeah.
So like that kind of stuff is really interesting. Right. So
he probably liked being out, but
he did. He
but
felt a little
still-
bit back to normal, right?
Yeah.
Like taking the train, going into the office, like that's what he's done his whole life. So for me, I was very productive back in my corporate days when I was working from home.
For a lot of us who all we ever did was work remotely, nothing really changed. Right.
But the difference is that for me, it did because people are here.
Right.
So no, things didn't change in regards to business, but I work better. I can work with people around. Obviously, I've been doing it and we work in the same space and it's not a problem. But when I was here, I just knew that I could literally just dive into things that would take a little bit longer.
I agree. Fun. Even like working in this little makeshift office here. Yesterday, I was the same way. I was here by myself. There was no distractions. There's nothing else in the room, and there's nowhere to go. Really, nowhere else to sit. So, I went through my list, and I talked yesterday to. It was like you too. It was just like tedious stuff that I didn't really want to do.
Yep, but it was like check, did check. Yeah, did all this.
That was nice getting through it, even though you're like, oh. So for those of you who think that, we're all like, oh, go. No, we have those days too, where we don't want to do the tedious work, but we have no choice.
So to switch gears slightly, one thing I did do yesterday was I had to work on a podcast. So for those of you who don't know, I do have a few podcast clients. I'm not taking on any more because I'm actually at my max, which is great. We actually have a podcast directory, and I didn't know if anybody knew that, but we actually have a podcast directory.
We do.
You should probably tell people about it.
Yeah.
But so they're both things that we recommend. So people always ask me, what podcast do I listen to? And I send them to our podcast directory. So I'll put the link here so that people know where to go, because there is a lot of great podcasts out there. But yesterday was the first time. So I love the podcast that people that go through our GIA program, like they're great. We have those on there as well.
Yeah.
I've listened to them. Those are the ones I focus on. Some of the few clients that I have. And yesterday was the first one that I was editing that I hated.
Really?
Like, it was awful to listen to because the guest was awful.
Oh.
So there's one thing, and I know you and I have talked about this before, and I know, and now that, like, when I heard that yesterday, I was literally going to send you a note and say, we need to do two things. Number one, how to be a good host, which we've talked about, and we are going to do that because that's really important. How to interview somebody is really important. But the secondary piece that we don't talk about very often, that I think we need to focus on this as a separate entity, is how to be a good guest.
Right.
Because this is your opportunities. People think, I'm going to show up on and whether it's a podcast, whether it's a video show, whether it's a conversation, no matter how it's happening, they think, okay, I'm going to be asked some questions. I either supply them, which you and I have had this conversation before, but you either supply them or not. Right. But you're going to go on, you're going to have a conversation, you're going to answer some questions, and your brand business gets promoted through their network. Right. Win, win, win.
Right.
Except when you're a really bad guest and all you're focused on is getting your message out there. So one of the parts that happened that just about pushed me, like I literally had to stop and was like, breathe, because he was being rude.
Really?
So the host asked a question. I didn't like the topic. I didn't like what he said. I didn't like his philosophy. Like, I'm pretty open-minded. I'm all about controversial opinions. Yeah. I love listening to different people's perspectives. I'm extremely open-minded when it comes to all of that stuff. But for some reason, I got triggered. And this guy was just like, he was talking about things that I just could not disagree with more if I tried. But anyway, professional. No problem.
Yeah, you're just a producer. You can't.
Yep, it's all good. So the content, but I have to listen to it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she asks a question, he answers it, and then she confirms. So in her confirmation, he would say things like, did I say that? Did I say that? No. Did I say that? No, I didn't say that. Did I say that? Completely talking over her as she's confirming what he had said. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Did I? I didn't say that. Did I? And I was like, duh.
Wow.
I've never, so like, it's one thing.
Did you tell her that he was horrible?
I haven't. I'm going to send her an email today.
Okay. Maybe because I just air that one.
Well, it was interesting because I started thinking about that. Should it be aired? So that's so it's interesting you say that, because that was my first thought. But then she did a great job as the host. She asked great questions. She wasn't really able to, she didn't talk a lot, which is unusual. There's usually a lot of back and forth conversations that happen with her and her guests. This one wasn't. And I started to question, would I air this? And I'm all about, again, and she's like, it's controversial. The opinions that he has is controversial. So it's all good.
But is it?
But does that look bad on her? Does that look bad on him?
Right. Well, there's two things. One is, are you controversial? You can be controversial and still be really interesting. And you can be, you can have a good conversation. You can be listening to your host. You can be answering it properly. And to use a very highbrow term, or you can be a dick. and that's sorry, but that's the truth. So if you're just going to be an idiot, then the host can choose not to put you on. Like, that's how I feel. You know, if somebody's just trying to like push back or just trying to talk about themselves. And again, that comes back to understanding, how to subtly put your message in when you need to, and not like, beating somebody over the head with a stick because you think that's the only way that you can get your message out, right? So
Yeah, and it was
you don't
really
know anybody
interesting.
anything unless they paid to be on your show. You don't know them.
Yeah, and again, the positioning of it that, I mean, the show notes, it is a controversial topic. So it's all good the way the position was.
Sure.
And again, she handled it well, but I think there's respectful ways to disagree, right? You can have a
Absolutely.
controversial topic, and you and I could have a conversation where we disagree.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you voice your opinion, and I'll be, once you're done, I'll be like, "You know what? Actually, I don't agree with that. This is my thoughts," or whatever the case may be. But to talk over, I think that was the part that got me, was like, "I didn't say that, did I? I didn't say that." And he said it multiple times. "I didn't say that, did I?" And
And
I
what did
can't
she
cut that
do?
out.
What did she do? She was just being nice.
She was very respectful. In all fairness, she was very good. Um, she kind of summarized like, "No, I'm just trying to make sure that the listeners like have a full understanding of both perspectives." Like, and she did a really good job, sort of 3/4 of the way through, like really getting him back on track. And then of course he veered off again to make sure that his message drove home. Like, he needed to get this, like, and then at one point he's like, "And this is where I tell people to hire me," like big sales pitch as well, which is not
Yeah.
necessarily cool. So
Well,
it was
that's
just,
why I don't usually interview people, because I would call them out and say, "Sorry, you're a dick." Like,
and for those of you who want to be on the show, no. No,
yeah,
but
because my expectations are, listen, the truth is, we have guests all the time, but we vet them and we make sure that the people that are coming on have like been through our speaker training, or they understand, they've been through GIA and they understand how to be able to tell their message in a respectful manner, and be a great guest and all that stuff. But if you're not, I'm gonna call you on it. I'm sorry, but it's my show. So if you want to be an idiot, then go get your own show and talk about it, right? But I have, like I said, I'm like you, Stacy. I have no problem listening to anybody's opinion, whatever they think. But when it's not, because what you're saying to me, it wasn't opinion based that was the issue. It wasn't his opinions that were an issue. It was him.
right. Yeah, he was basic, in my opinion, borderline rude
Yeah.
to the host. And although at the end, like, she did a great job summing up and, making sure that, he was well respected. Like, she did a great job, like really
Yeah.
good. But I don't know whether I would have aired that or not. And in some cases, from, if I was trying to look at it from all different angles, because this got into my head, and I started thinking, well, you know what? It did showcase her well, right?
Right.
It didn't showcase him well, but that's his problem.
Well,
It
maybe
showcased her well.
Well, maybe on the other side, you're like, oh, maybe we will air it because everyone can see what an idiot he is.
And how good of an and what a good interviewer that makes
Yeah.
her. Because when you have a difficult guest, it makes your job as a host very difficult to reel them back. And again, she did a great job. So she looked great.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting one, because there are obviously two kinds of people, right? I'm obviously the other kind. I'm the person I'm the interviewer that will call you on something. But I like listening to people that, I don't like interviews that pander to the interviewee, right? Like, I don't like the ones that you see on TV where it's like Oprah, never asking an important question the whole time. You know what I mean? I like people who actually ask questions that everyone's thinking about. Right.
Right.
So, but on the other side, a lot of people want quiet, respectful hosts that will just let somebody talk. And so, and they're equally as good in a different manner. Right. So it just depends on what you like to listen to. But I think, you have to figure that out. And you have to be ready for it as a host. So that's the one thing. Yeah, we should put that program out soon. You should be ready for it as a host to be able to say, what am I going to do when someone shows up that I did not expect to act like this?
Right. And then again, on the other side of the coin is how to be a good guest.
Right.
So again, if you're coming in with a controversial topic, or you don't agree with maybe the position or the question or the positioning of the way that the host has asked you a question, or, brought you into the conversation, or whatever the case may be, like, how do you respectfully say, yes, but they're still the host of the show, and you're still their guest.
Right.
So how do you get your point across? How do you engage in conversation respectfully?
Yeah, and I agree. And most people can learn and do really well with that side. But you are going to always have, for those of you who do host podcasts or host radio shows, you are always going to have people that will never be respectful. They just won't.
Absolutely. And I think it's easier if it's a podcast versus a video, because if it's video, you can see maybe your reaction. Are you, as a host, rolling your eyes, or, they can't see your facial expressions. So you're sitting there going, oh my God, how do I get this person to stop?
Stop talking.
That's the worst. So, like you said, there are subtle ways that you as the guest can bring yourself into the conversation, or to respectfully disagree and to get your point across in the midst of a respectful conversation, versus talking over the guest. That's not what I said. I didn't say that, did I? I didn't say that, did I? Did I? And it was
so I would be like, oh, you didn't? Okay, let's play that back. Stacy, my producer, can you play that back for my guest? Let him see that he actually said that. That would be me.
I should have done that. I mean, actually you did, and then insert the audio where.
Yeah, because I don't like it's funny to me. Like, okay, this is being recorded, dude. Like, you can't say you didn't say that if you said it.
Kind of like in the courtroom where the girl goes, "Can you repeat back to me what he said?" Yep.
So I
read it back to you.
So really, if you are going to, host a podcast or a radio show or whatever, the onus is on you to be able to deal with that, because being a good guest is one thing, and that's awesome if you want to be a good guest, and we can, teach you. Lots of people can teach you how to be a really good guest, but much harder to be a good host, because you do have to deal with people that you think are going to be good guests, and then there's the other ones that come and at least this person was controversial. Some are so boring when they get on.
Right, there's that piece too.
Like, oh, now what, right?
Well, because I think social media has moved to, like, every platform gives you the ability to have two people.
Yeah.
Zoom, you can do it for free. You can do a Facebook Live that way. You can Instagram. You can go live on Instagram and invite people into your feed and have that conversation. So social media has opened up this opportunity to literally have anybody around the world be part of your live, your interview, your show, whatever the case may be. So yeah, you need to, and that's all host, like whether you have an official show or not.
Right.
That is host skills.
Yes. And it is skills. It is skills. And you think about the people that you enjoy listening to or watching, and you will see that they're very talented at that, right? Mm-hmm. Whether they're in your face or whether they're around, like trying to, smooth the conversation, they're talented in whatever they do. So, and then there are a lot of people who aren't, and them, you see them and you go, why is this person doing an interview when they are terrible and they're asking canned questions, right?
Or they're not asking any, and they're just letting their guest, go off on a million tangents. Because I think, when I go, okay, this person's going to be interviewed and this is the topic, and I tune in and they've completely gone in a different direction. Again, that host, whether it's sort of official show or you're just having them on your feed, that's still host skills. And if you're not bringing them back to the conversation that you promised your audience that you would be having.
Well, that's a good example is, if you guys watch late night TV talk shows, right? So all the Kimmels and the Fallons of the world, all those guys. So what's interesting interesting is, they just, there is they do pre-interviews, the interviewee with the producer, so they kind of know what they're going to talk about anyway, but it's seamless, right? And they just having this conversation, and they pull in a story, and you don't even see it happen, right? And then they have a guest host when they're away.
Yeah.
And the guest host, what do they have? They have cards in front of them, right? They go, "Oh, we have some questions here for you."
Yeah, hang
and
on.
then they'll say something stupid like, "Oh, didn't you tell our producer about this story?" And you're like, I don't want to hear it like that.
Yeah.
I want it woven in so that I think you're having a dinner party conversation. If you're sitting there asking questions on a card, I'm not interested in watching. So if you really want to see the skill difference between somebody who does it, on a daily basis and people that are filling in and just trying to wing it, that's a great learning piece for you to see. And you know what? Speaking of winging it and like surprises, we both saw that interview last night on Fox News, right? Do you remember the girl's name?
Oh, I can't remember it, but tell the story and I'll see if I can find it.
Basically, she's having a split screen. It's the Fox anchor or whatever, and some guy, and he starts talking about this story he saw, right, which is about measles, and it was on You. And the conversation is hysterical because she's getting really mad. She's like, I've never done that. Never done that. I've never done that. He's like, no, it was on You. And she's saying, no, it wasn't. And it's like the Who's on First thing, but he's talking about the You show on Netflix.
But she, I think at the end was really funny because he goes, no, there's a show called You. And she goes, there's not a show called her name. I think it was no, there's not a show called whatever her name is, Lauren, Jenna, whatever, on Netflix. And he was
so mad. And it was hysterical because like I when I first saw it, I thought it was a joke. I thought like set up, right? Nobody can be that silly. But when you're in that moment, like, so there's still a discussion. Was it a setup? Was it but when you're in that moment and you're lost, right? That host was lost.
Yeah.
That you cannot see. And that's the difference. If you're a good host, you would stop and in your mind go, okay, what am I not seeing here? Or where am I going to clarify the conversation? But instead, she was getting mad and crazy and stuff, which is the polar opposite of what a good host would do.
Yeah, that's
anyways, funny. I don't know what her name is. I can't remember. Sorry. I posted it on. So if you check my Instagram story, you'll see what we're talking about. It was on 6 Buzz News or whatever that.
Yeah, I saw a few people posted on Facebook. I saw it a couple of times on TikTok. I finally sent it to you because I'd seen it so many times. A lot of people
and I saw it. I was funny because I saw it the day before while I was, in bed, not sleeping as usual. And this morning my daughter sent it to me.
Yeah. So it's making its rounds.
Yeah, because it was just so funny. So if you haven't seen it, it's a really good, it's a good learning tool for you to say, okay, you need to stop, not get so frustrated. Kind of like this guy where he said, I didn't say that, right? Like he should have said, okay, did I? You know what I mean? Like, let's think about it. Did I?
Hang on. What am I missing? What am I not seeing more than what I'm seeing? Yeah, it was interesting. So that one's really funny. So you have to Google that, Fox News, You something. Yeah, I'm sure it'll come up. I'll see if I can find it for the links. But
it was really interesting. Anyway, it's if you're interested in the business of, everyone thinks about, I want to do a podcast, and what they immediately say, immediately say, I'll interview people.
Mm-hmm. That's the most exactly. And I'm going to do a show and I'm going to be the host and it's going to be an interview model so that I don't have to always kind of fill the air. People will a lot of times people say, I get bored with this or whatever. Yeah. And I remember one of my other clients, I literally sent her a note and I said, you're really good on your own.
Yeah.
You're not good when you have guests.
Right.
I said, because and she wasn't like, she's fantastic on her own. She's like the way she talks about different philosophies and stuff like that. She's fantastic on her own. As soon as she gets an interviewee, number one, the interviewee is not that interesting and she's not a good interviewer. So she's not able to keep the conversation flowing to match the vibe of her other shows when she's on her own. So it's really interesting that different people have different strengths.
Yeah, and that's why you have to really listen and watch and say, okay, again, gravitate, like, who do you enjoy? Why do you like them? Why do they hold your interest? Because if you're not doing kind of the same thing, like if that's your vibe, if you like that, then you'll probably be good at that because you like it, you enjoy it, you get that rhythm going. But if you're, if you see somebody and you love it, but you're not, in your heart that you can't do the same thing, don't try to do the same thing, right?
Exactly.
So you have to really understand where you are. Everyone thinks interviewing a person is the easy way out. It's the hard way.
It's hard.
It's way harder to interview somebody than it is to just talk on your own.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, we have more to do on our to-do list after our Monday planning session. So
Yes,
I'm
we
going
do.
to continue that route. And so are you. You have a list of to-dos, I'm sure, longer than mine. So,
long 2 weeks. So soon I'll be coming to you from a place with furniture.
all right. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.